the hallowed halls of Epic Financial Strategies here in Red Bank, New Jersey. We are Infinity X, coming to you live from the Epic Production Studios, and we are thrilled to have John Cerasani on with us this evening. John, how are you tonight?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing wonderful, folks. We are Infinity X, giving a stage and microphone to human excellence. If you have a question for John, you're able to put it into the chat, and we will get to those questions live during the session. You can find John on Twitter and Instagram at John Cerasani. John is an accomplished venture capitalist, author, former football player at the highest level at Northwestern University, and I believe the Fighting Irish too. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, John.
You are correct, sir.
My God. Folks, you're about to get an education this evening in Entrepreneurship 101 with an unbelievably diverse background. I know spent a lot of time in employee benefits, which I'm really excited to play in that space. Has really done unbelievable things in the area of venture capital, partnerships with people like Rodgers. Folks, if you want to get an education on how to build entrepreneurship, the book is called Paid Training, right? It's on Amazon. You can get it for, I believe, $15. Yeah. But folks, tonight, we are going to walk through the journey of John Cerasani, and he's going to walk us through how he became the megapreneur that he is. So, John, again, welcome to the Infinity X stage, brother. So happy to have you here tonight.
Appreciate being here, David. This is great.
Absolutely, brother. And so where did it all start for you? Where are you from?
I'm from Schaumburg, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago. And from there, you had already mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be good at football, which got me into some schools that, I don't know if I would have got into them without football, and they're great schools, Notre Dame and Northwestern. And after Northwestern, I graduated and got into the insurance world, which you alluded to in the employee benefits arena.
Yep. And, John, talk a little bit about the discipline that it took growing up to, to make it to that stage. I mean, they don't hand out Division I's, and you would have been a mid-round pick from what that's what you were trending towards, right? I mean, that doesn't grow on trees, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. I played tight end, and, when you play at schools that are that size, especially Notre Dame, and playing at that level, you really, you either got to be fast enough or big enough, or in most cases, both. You know what I mean? And I was blessed to be a very large person. I'm about 6'5", 270. Maybe at the moment a little closer to 280, but whatever.
COVID,
Exactly.
And that was the Lou Holtz era, right?
Yeah. So I played for I don't know the average age of your audience members, but I'm 45 years old. So when I was going to Notre Dame, it was in the middle of the 90s, the Lou Holtz era. This was before all the recruiting websites and all that stuff was all over the internet. You'd find out who the All-Americans were by going to 7-Eleven and buying the recruiting magazines, and my picture's in it. I guess I made it. You know what I mean? And literally that's how it was. Yep. So if you could go to Notre Dame back then, you could have went really anywhere, and that's how it was for me. So.
Absolutely. And so, John, as you were in school, I mean, obviously a major portion of what you were concentrating on was athletics, and the world of, the world of the NCAA today, I think, is a little bit different than what it was back when you were actively playing. As you were focused, were you only 100% focused on your craft, or were you thinking about doing things post-graduation in the entrepreneurial area? Tell me what, your mindset was back then.
It's funny, man. Even while I was playing football, I started a business in college. We really weren't supposed to be doing any businesses in college back. Now the kids could make money, and you see them on billboards and stuff. Back when I was playing, we weren't allowed to do that. Yep. But there's, I did, I guess. And I think I passed the statute of limitations on that. Hey man, this is the first time I ever said that out loud. So anyway, anyway, the only reason I point that out is just because I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I was planning events in downtown Chicago with all the college kids from Northwestern, DePaul, Loyola, University of Chicago, and I'd kind of bring everyone together. And I mean, nowadays you'd probably call it like a nightclub promoter. Back then, there wasn't any social media. You actually had to have talent for for this job. Okay. So we'd have concerts and, just live events that got me pretty popular, but that has no, actually, I should point out that business actually ended up going somewhere, and it got me in Crain's Chicago as a popular business magazine in the Midwest, and it put me on their 40 under 40 list a few years later.
I saw 40 under 40 posted on your social too. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, here's what's so funny. So at the same time, I had gotten into employee benefits. After college, I got into employee benefits, but I still had this job because it was literally a cash cow printing money, and people really enjoyed the events too. So it was filling that space. But when I had a regular job in corporate America at that point with an insurance giant, Arthur J. Gallagher, and I got Crain's interviewing me. I'm 26 years old, 27 years old, trying to pump up my insurance career here. And then the article comes out and it's talking about my damn college nightclub business. So my bosses at Gallagher weren't too thrilled about that.
Well, listen, I mean, if you were accelerating, then what are they going to say? Right?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, listen, man, I had a producer job. I was, like I said, I was in my mid-20s. Everybody else was 50. I like all the guys in the office, like to high five me with stories like that. So it was definitely welcomed. What
moved you into employee benefits?
So once you had pointed out that I thought up until my last game of my senior year, I was going to be playing in the NFL. I had I got invited to the blue-gray game, which was an all-star game, and my physical came back with something that was kind of bothering me. And anyway, long story short, there's a contusion to my spinal cord. Oh. You're fine, but really probably shouldn't play football because that's weakening, and that means one big hit's not going to break your shoulder, it's going to paralyze you. So, and at that point, the rule was there was no HIPAA back then either, by the way. So old I am. I guess HIPAA was kind of out at the point, but the college trainer would have had to tell the NFL teams they have to disclose all this. And it makes sense, right? So at that way, I was, I just kind of said, okay, no one's going to take me anyway. And I wasn't going to be Peyton Manning. I wasn't going to make millions. I was going to be probably, at best a 4th or 5th round draft pick and hopefully play around in the league for a few years. But, Tom Brady, who I played against, is, I would have got drafted before him that year, and he's still playing.
Yeah, so right.
maybe I got this wrong.
And he was quoted as saying, like, I was thinking I might just have to go out and do insurance sales, right?
Yeah, Tom, here I am. And you're married to Giselle, and I'm on David's interview.
Listen, it's debatable on which is more important of a platform, my friend.
Oh, thank you. But I'm going to tell you what, though, David, in all honesty, a lot of my friends went on to play in the NFL, and it's a rough business, man. It's not like the NBA. It's not like Major League Baseball. Those contracts, man, you could get cut at any given point. You don't get paid for the games you don't play. So if a guy's, back when I was playing, it was $220,000 minimum salary, 16 games, every game, 1/16 of that you get paid. You get cut after game 5 or you get hurt. Yeah, you got 5/16 of that minimum salary, and a lot of people don't really realize that about the NFL. So I really think me getting into insurance. My parents always used to tell me this too, but both of them are passed away now. But they always used to say, not playing in the NFL is probably the best thing that ever happened to you, because I would have bounced around for a couple of years. And here's the other thing, David. NFL players that play for a few years and then go into the work world. Yeah, we're conditioned to think our crap don't stink. We think like, oh, of course. Yeah, I'll come work for you. It's a favor to you for me to work here. And by missing that, I never had that mindset, which I think helped me in the long run.
It's unbelievable that you say that. So about 2 months ago, I had, and I know you were on the Lev and Marcus podcast, right? Yeah, I had Marcus on our show a couple of months back, and he was saying the exact same thing. He was talking about how, a post playing career that, he got his first public speaking engagement. He's like, I was thinking who I was. And, I felt like I commanded such a large stage, and it was like 100 people or something like that. And I think he got paid like $1,700. And he said that was the aha moment for himself, where he was, look, either I look at this and I say, this is way below what I command, and like, don't you know who I am and who my brother is? Or I could look at that and say, somebody actually paid to want to hear my message, and I should embrace this and I should move forward. I thought that was really powerful.
That is.
I totally identify with that.
Well, and Marcus is a little bit older too, so he could wrap his head around it. Now go ask some 26-year-old to figure that out. You know what I mean? It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you moved and you moved into employee benefits, and employee benefits is broad, right? Was the focal point on health insurance, or was it disability, or was it
Yeah. So to answer, I never really answered your actual question. Was how did I get into insurance, into benefits in the first place? What happened for me was after I found out I wasn't playing in the NFL, I was blessed to go to Northwestern University. And I think most universities have this. Utilize that career services center at your college campus if any younger people are listening. I mean, gosh, I just went in there. I went from thinking I'm playing in the NFL to needing a damn job in 2 months. So I just interviewed with everyone who walked in that door. And Great West Healthcare was called. Yeah. They were later purchased by Cigna. But gosh, I'll tell you what, man, best first job I ever had. We were selling wholesale insurance. Quite honestly, we kind of had an inferior product that was very difficult to sell. We're dealing against Blue Crosses of the world, and then Cigna was a competitor at the time, United Healthcare, who's Great West Healthcare.
right?
It taught me how to sell, though, and it was a true sales environment for that B2B world, which I loved. So I always grew up in that space, and I was blessed to be in that space because it kept me in that middle market, that 100 to a couple thousand employee range, and that's the business I learned. Whereas I know that people are making a killing doing individual policies and things of that nature. I was on the totally other side of that life and health license.
That's an interesting, I love what you just shared on that. And thank you for that, because, when you're selling, when you're positioning a product that, might, be looked upon as either, I wouldn't call it suboptimal, because I think any type of insurance is, typically speaking, pretty good insurance, but when you're battling the Cignas and the Blue Cross Blue Shields of the world, and, the Aetnas, that's an uphill battle because they're behemoths, and you might not have necessarily the internal support structure. And so what were some things that you found really harnessed your sales skills when a employer, a municipality, whoever it was, would say, listen, John, we appreciate you, but we think that your product might be inferior?
Yeah. So when I was at Great West, we were selling through brokers. So I had to convince the brokers even to show us to their client.
Got it.
And and it was such a unique value proposition that most of these employers weren't ready for it. So these brokers would be out there not wanting to even show it because they didn't really completely understand what we were doing. It was a partial hybrid, self-funded arrangement that not everyone really could wrap their head around. So what I learned to do was just get the meeting. Just get the meeting somehow. Get the meeting first with the broker, show him something, show well, and then get him to put you in front of that and put you in front of that client. Certainly, we weren't winning all of them. I mean, most of your audience probably never heard of Great West, and Cigna probably bought them for pennies on the dollar. But as far as the experience it gave me, we had to compete in that environment. So when I was at Notre Dame, I was the Blue Cross. Hey, I'm going to Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Now here I'm at Great West, and we're, UAB or, whatever, name it, that's going against Alabama. Right.
Right. And so you accelerated, obviously, dramatically in that space. And as you continue to build that and kind of build your base, because once you have a stable of, guys like me, right, advisors who might have the business to business relationships and are showing what showing your solution to their clients. Right. You show them well, and they're going to be repeat offenders, right? And they're going to be very loyal to you. How did, what happened next after you started to scale out your business?
Yeah. So we would call it training our brokers. So you get 4 or 5, 6 guys that actually give a crap about what you're saying, get them on board with this product, and then get them to start presenting you on a regular basis. And that's exactly what we did. Now here's the thing, though. I was pretty young when I started to realize, well, wait a minute. We're just this wholesale guy over here selling one product, and I'm trying to convince this broker over here that has these 8, and I could see his commission versus our commission. And I want that job, man. I want that job. But as a 24-year-old, you're trained in your head to be like, oh gosh, I could I do that? I mean, that's a tough job. I mean, I don't know if we could. So I ended up moving over to Arthur J. Gallagher, getting a job there as a younger broker, moved up the ladder there in a few years. And then once I was at Gallagher and I saw, it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? You pull back the curtain and it's like, okay, it's just people here. There's no magic formula happening here. And I think I'm getting these clients because of me and not because of the name on my business card. And hey, you know what, man, let's go figure it out if this is the case. So I quit my job on good terms and started doing the exact same thing I was doing at Gallagher out of my kitchen. The company blew up. I developed a niche working with small private colleges and universities, which allowed me to compete against people like my former employer.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Competing. Yeah. So I built it, and then a private equity backed competitor came in and bought us. And, now I'm getting interviews like this. So it's cool.
Unbelievable, folks. We are Infinity X stage and microphone with John Cerasani, who's sharing an unbelievable journey about navigating through the employee benefit world. Folks, he founded a company which was purchased by private equity, right?
Yep.
Selling to colleges and universities, niche marketing, folks. He found a niche market, which I want to build a little bit on here in a second.
Yep.
And I think for all you folks out there who are looking to create a vertical for your business, you have to identify a scalable and repeatable niche, right? A market that you can dominate, right? A market that, your value proposition to that market is one that is unique to anybody else. And that doesn't grow on trees. You have to do your research. You have to, you have to identify. So why were the colleges and universities so much of like an ideal avatar for you, John?
So I learned that space. So Gallagher would kind of focus on nonprofit or public entity types on one team, and the regular private sector employers on another team. And I was on the public nonprofit side. And then within that, there was a few people that focused on just colleges and universities. But they were going after the big dogs. They were going after University of Illinois, the bigger state universities. Okay. Once you went downstream a little bit, all of a sudden, Elmhurst College, that most of your audience probably never heard of, with 400 employees. Okay, well, that's not on the radar screen of us big nonprofit public guys because they're only 400 employees. But look over here on that private sector.
Yep.
They would love to write a car dealership or a factory with 400 employees.
Sure.
Okay. So that guy comes over here to Elmhurst College. He doesn't have the same expertise in higher education that was learned over here. So I'm looking at this thing. I see that it's wrong. Everyone's twice my age, and good people, by the way, too. Don't misread what I'm saying there. But I just looked at it like, okay, I see the trajectory of my career here. I see this idea and can't believe this is being overlooked. You know what? I just decided to pull the trigger and do it on my own. And it allowed me to compete again against Gallagher, but I didn't want in that space. I go against Aon, I go against Marsh. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, some of these guys, some of the 400 employee colleges will think they're Harvard, and they're going to have to be with Aon or Willis or somebody like that because, the person that's the decision maker doesn't want to get fired if I screw up. Right. But you know what? When you're on your own, you don't got to win every time. You know what I mean? You got to win about, to replace that income. I got to win about 1/10 of the times I would have won over there. You know what I mean?
I do. Incredible. And folks, by the way, replay available on weareinfinityx.com, WeAreInfinityX, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple iTunes. Jade, I'm going to get to your question in just a second, but John, what was it like when a private equity firm gave you the call and said, we love what you're doing and we want to, now was it a leverage buyout or what exactly took place?
So these private equity firms started coming in and buying companies for multiples of EBITDA, which is net profit or however you want to put it. I thought they were mistaking when they told me the multiple that they were willing to talk to us about, and it just didn't make any sense. And I thought, okay, because my book of business or our company, it's probably about, I don't want to be too specific because I have non-disclosure, but say somewhere between 3 and 5 million was our total revenue. Okay. Not a premium, the total revenue.
Revenue. Right.
Now the issue was industry standard for employee benefit firms like that are like what, 20% profit margin or 20% of that's EBITDA, maybe 25% aggressively. Mm-hmm. Because I had this niche focus with private higher education, I didn't have to hire salespeople. I didn't have to hire marketing people. They were coming to me. We had over 100 colleges at the end.
Yep.
So my EBITDA was like 80% of that gross number.
Unbelievable.
So listen, they're calling me to try to tell me about this deal that they want to do. And I'm like, all right, they probably look through Judy Diamond or one of these services to figure out my revenue. And they think they're going to buy us for, let's say 7 to 10 times what they think my EBITDA is.
Yep.
hey, we kept going down the path, and they didn't care. And I learned a lot about private equity at that point, because they kept that same multiple, buying it for a higher amount, because they were not doing anything to take it over. They were just rolling us up into a bunch of other firms that they're buying, and then packaging us to sell to somebody else. So I did have some requirements where I had to maintain that EBITDA for a few years. After that point of sale, I had to work there for a few years to maintain it. But gosh, man, so to answer your question, when they first called me, I was like very skeptical. Like, oh, there's no way they're gonna buy it for this much. And then as it went, I learned more about it, and like, okay, let's go. And a good friend of mine was my lawyer at the time, and he's a pretty big firm, and he was kind of doing me a favor to even represent a case my size. And me and him are like laughing while we're on the phone with the CFO and the private equity firm. Like, dude, just don't. He's like arguing legal points. I go, they're overpaying me. Don't mess this up.
Say a word, right?
Mess this up. Just say yes. They go, John, they when you have this long and non-compete, just accept everything. Do it.
Unbelievable. Folks, we are Infinity X Stage, a microphone with John Cerasani. You can find him on Instagram and on Twitter at John Cerasani. So John, you sell out right now. You fulfilled your obligations with them, right? You worked for a few different years. I would assume on a consulting role, right? Just as much as as a not so much on a full-time basis.
Yeah, no, they would structure it a little differently. They said it was a 5-year employment contract, which is crazy, right? Not employed at will, 5-year contract. My employees that came over were employed at will, so they're employees at that point. But I still had to show up to work and everything else. So there's like, they couldn't just get rid of me if they wanted to. There's very specific things that had to take place for me to quit or for them to get rid of me. But they left me skin in the game too, right? So they gave me like half of my deal. Let's just say roughly, I don't want to be too specific, but roughly half of my deal up front here at point of sale, and then kickers over the next 3 years to get the rest of the percentage.
Yep.
And then they took a big chunk of the percentage and made me take stock in the company that bought mine. Now, that's where my story gets really interesting though, David, if you want me to tell that part real quick.
Dying to hear it, brother.
Okay. So that was supposed to be a minority share of the deal. Let's say 35% of the deal was supposed to be in stock, let's say. Okay. Private equity firms sell to other private equity firms like every 5 to 7 years. Okay. Well, when I came in, the stock was worth, let's say $1. All right. 2 months later, they had a capitalization where another private equity firm bought them out. So that 35% of my total deal that was worth $1 in stock gets sold to another private equity firm, and that dollar turns into about $3.
Oh,
okay. So my 35% just tripled. It was more than the rest of the whole damn deal.
Yeah.
Everybody else at the organization at this time is cashing out because they had been there for 7 years. This is a liquidity event for them. Well, I couldn't cash out, David, because for me, I would have had to pay, because it just happened. I would have had to pay short-term capital gains tax on that money.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting that money anyway. You know what? Let's just let it all roll. I don't want to pay the taxes on it. I wasn't expecting it anyway. Okay. So guess what happens next? In that 5-year period, it recapitalizes again before I leave. So they were going to buy me out on my 5th year when I actually quit, when I actually resign. It sells to another private equity firm and triples again. So I get this stock that tripled twice. And I'm going to tell you right now, if there was ever a case study about a private equity firm buying you, everyone talks about how the private equity firm could buy you and dilute you and screw you over. This is like a case study on the opposite side on how it work out.
Unbelievable.
It's awesome. So it's really been, I'm very, very blessed, and timing's everything there.
Congratulations on that, John. That's incredible. And then, and you end up having this very, very large liquidity event, right? What did you do next? What happened next?
So I tried to kind of hang out, and I raised my son. I have a 13-year-old son that I raised by myself, but I had a little fun there, little Bahamas, little Vegas, did some things, but after a couple of months, I'm like, man, this cannot be the case. I gotta do something here. So I started Glencrest Global, which is my family office. And I have the big dogs like, UBS and Merrill Lynch involved with maybe the more heftier parts of the wealth management. But I personally run a team that looks at early stage venture capital, as well as real estate. And it's taken me all over the country, and it's a lot of fun evaluating those deals.
That's incredible. Was it because of your own personal experience that you started looking at venture capital, or did you have an appetite for it before that?
I always kind of just messed around. I've always had that entrepreneur mindset, but I was so laser focused on my insurance company, building and building and building. I couldn't even really ever pay attention. So I've always owned rental properties around the city and the suburbs, but a couple friends were opening bars or restaurants, and I'd throw in 50 grand here or 25 grand here, that kind of thing. But it never really anything that I could actually help with, because all of that, I had a cash cow over here. I couldn't have my focus off of that. So it was always passive for me. What I think I could do now, though, is in this venture capital world, is bring my expertise, bring my experience of building and selling a company, but also just the fact that I learned that private equity component too. Gosh, if I would have loved to talk to me what I know now, 6 years ago. I mean, to even understand why, instead of me just sitting there, I'll sign anything because I think these guys are overpaying, to now understanding that world and how it works. Hey, listen, they're glad I'm making a ton of money because they're making a ton of money too. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
So, I really had no idea, and I didn't understand it. So I don't know. I'm, like I said, I'm 45 years old. I got a lot of years ahead of me still. I've decided, even though my non-compete's up, I've decided I'm going to stay away from insurance. And primarily it's just because you got one life to live, man. Insurance has done very well for me. I'm very happy with it. It might not always be the most exciting dinner conversations though. So, let's do something maybe a little bit more, on the exciting side, or just for this next volume of my life, at least.
I love that. I want to build on that for a moment, but folks,
sure.
What you just heard John share is exciting beyond belief to me, because people don't wake up and want to have a conversation with you about insurance. It doesn't work that way. So John, just a little brief pivot for a moment. We were talking about this on the phone a little bit earlier, but we at our company, Epic, we're essentially a one-stop shop. Epic Insurance Services, Epic Wealth Management, our fiduciary division. But similar to the experience that you had in identifying the niche market, right, with the colleges and the universities,
right?
We identified a very specific vertical where we could make a big impact, and that was in the real estate investment market. And through proximity to individuals, we were blessed to get an introduction to another influencer who has built a massive real estate presence and a massive social media presence by leveraging strategies that we specifically were able to customize and create for him, that he then began to and commenced with sharing to his marketplace, right? Awesome. And as a result of that, we have the unbelievable privileged window of having, conditioned conversations with people that actually want to speak with us about the living benefits of insurance relative to the death component of insurance. Because who the hell wants to talk about insurance, right? Because people don't necessarily really understand what insurance can do. And then we overlay that with the planning. But in a time, especially during COVID, when people in my business, right, were, in my business who traditionally are doing either, now I don't want to say door to door, but in-home conversations and meetings and in-person meetings, we're struggling mightily. And we saw a massive uptick in our business and our flow as a result of creating strategic partnerships, right? And as a result of creating, a vertical based upon leveraging people's influence and ultimately our influence as well. And so I share that because, number one, I want to talk to you more about insurance because I love your background. I love it. I'm dying to talk to you a little bit more about that. But in the last 3 years, right, unprecedented times like you and I have never seen. We're the same age, right? Now you and I, we saw .com, right? We saw the bubble burst. We saw 9/11. We saw 08. But, COVID followed by this level of inflation and the insanity of what's happening in policy decision making out there. What's happening on Capitol Hill, in my opinion, is just, beyond.
Yeah.
But we're in unprecedented times from a financial perspective. As a venture capitalist, right? Has your approach towards looking at deals changed based upon today's economic environment? Does it change with economic environments, or do the fundamentals remain the same? And why is that?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'm gonna tell you what, though. I in the early stage stuff that I do, I hand off the later stage pieces where you need to do a little bit heavier diligence on the numbers and just the climate in general. I hand that off to people that have been doing this a lot longer than I have. On the early stage, but on the early stage stuff, though, I will look at all of that. So for instance, right now, what's hot in the early stage market is from a technology standpoint, at least, one of them, sports gambling. Okay. And sports gambling websites, sports gambling technology, apps, whatever. And all of them are banking on it going federally legal one day. Right now, it's state by state by state by state. Okay.
Yep.
So the big players like Caesars or, Harrah's or MGM or, whoever the big sports gambling players are. Okay. Once it goes federal, they're all going to be competing with each other to buy these little guys up. You follow me?
I do.
So something specific like that, obviously I'm paying attention on Capitol Hill. Okay. Cause I'm involved in a couple different businesses like that. And we're all banking on Caesars buying us one day. And if it doesn't go federal, they ain't going to buy us. So, you know what I mean? So I know I'm answering your question a little bit differently than what you were looking for, but that's my best way. And another big thing right now is marijuana.
Yep.
And it's just
gambling and marijuana. Does it get any better than this, folks?
Exactly. Sports gambling and weed. There we go. Yeah, but I mean, it's the damn same thing, right, man? So like everybody's jockeying to be in a position to be bought out once it goes federal. And even if it ever does go federal, but everybody, every entrepreneur that's pitching me feels like it is, or else they wouldn't be pitching me. You know what I mean? So those are two things that I definitely specifically keep an eye on. Just the market trends and all that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I could tell you this. It matters to me as a venture capitalist, knowing that it gives me some markets, like some wealth management, I guess you could say, certainty, knowing that, hey, okay, I got this tranche of money, and let's say I put it in, equities or whatever, and let's just say something similar to the S&P 500 index, but they pick their own stocks. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, what if it crashes? Well, that's okay, because I got X amount of dollars over here in private equity and venture capital that shouldn't impact it. So that versus if that market is down when I'm entering, maybe I'm putting less money in VC and private equity to put into the down market because I'm going to get that higher return over there. Yep. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And Parker, by the way, I think that answers your question. Parker Russo put out there, what are some of the businesses that you're heavily invested in? Are there any other areas besides marijuana and sports gambling that you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a number of businesses. There's one that I recently entered that's a subscription model for a CBD. Well, I guess we're going back to the marijuana. It's a CBD patch for women for their menstrual cycle. So you put it over where they're having their menstrual cramps. And the reason I love it is because an influencer, a famous actress named Ashley Greene, she was in the Twilight movies and has always just been a very strong advocate for women's health and huge Instagram following. And her and her sister-in-law actually founded the company. So, when you got that dynamic with a person that already has people following them, and it's not like she's selling you pool tables or something. This is with her cause of what's coming out right now. Yep. And not to mention, it's a good product that a lot of people, gosh, I just got involved a month ago and I got a bunch of free samples at my house and I'm giving them to my neighbors and my friends. And I was like, oh my God, if this thing works, this is going to be the best thing ever. And, lo and behold, 30 days or 4 days, depending on when they had their period, I'll get that phone call. Holy crap, it works. I'm signing up right now. Like, okay, good investment. How
to measure your ROI by the time of the month. I mean,
exactly. exactly. But it's so funny because I'll screenshot the calls from my friends and send them over to Ashley because we're still early stage. There's, we don't have millions of subscribers yet, but I'll send it over to her and she goes, "This is exactly what we love to hear. Thank you." So anyway.
Incredible. Oh my God. The web that we weave, John.
I know. Isn't it funny?
The life of an entrepreneur. Yeah. Folks, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone to human excellence. This is John Cerasani. You can find him on Instagram and on Twitter at John Cerasani. Let's talk about the book for a second, John.
Okay.
Paid training. What did you ever see yourself being an author? What drove you to write the book, and tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So, what we were talking about earlier, when I left Arthur J. Gallagher to start my own company, it became like this kind of like ongoing epiphany for me of those first several years. And I wrote that book in 2011. I had left Gallagher and started my own company in 2005. And I kind of just like dabbled in my head as it went. I'm like, what people don't understand, like I wouldn't get it, man. Like, I'd be at events for other brokers and intermediaries at like, a Chicago Cubs game or a Bulls game or something like that. And it's like, "Oh, John, you're with this little shitty company over here nobody's heard of. And I'm with Aon and I'm an assistant account manager over there. They like think they're better than you," or something like that. And I lived in that environment too. When I worked at Gallagher, we had all the wholesalers, taking us out all the time, buying us lunches. And gosh, man, dude, here I am over here. Call me as whatever you want to call me. You know what I'm making and what you're making right now? Do you know what my lifestyle's like and your lifestyle's not like right now? Do you know what freedom I have to bring solutions to my clients that you're in this little vertical that you don't even know anything outside that exists? Yep. Yep. So I think over those first few years, David, it kind of just was in my head, and I didn't really have something to prove, but I felt like this is not being talked enough about. And then, also there's so many entrepreneurs out there, like say Mark Cuban and people like that of the world that are always like promoting people to starve. It's okay. Go broke, man. Live in the back of your car and eat ramen noodles.
Right. Or buy a car that you can't afford because it'll make you work harder. I've heard that
right. Dude,
like, come on, dude.
So here we go. So that was the whole concept of my book. Screw all that noise. Okay. Paid training. Go get a job in corporate America, learn the craft, get paid for it, be a great employee during that time there, because you're not gonna learn enough if you're not a good employee. Mm-hmm. Rise. Now leave, do it yourself, and get that much bigger reward. Yep. So what's interesting about you bringing that up though, man, is I'm really toying right now with the second version of that book. Because when I wrote that book, I was still focused on my insurance company. Yeah. I wasn't running around promoting that thing very hard. I was barely even talking about it. I wanted to put it out there, but I didn't have the same, I didn't have all these other stuff that's happened since then happen yet. I didn't sell my company yet and get private equity or whatever. So I think I have a little bit more credibility now. And there's also a number of things I would add to it that I think could really add a lot of flavor to it. So you're hearing it here first. The working title is the 1000% raise.
Oh, okay, folks, put that out there in the chat right now. The 1000% raise. Walk us into that a little bit, John.
Okay. Yeah. What's that? I'm sorry.
Walk us into it a little bit.
What the 1000% raise? Yeah. So I just look at my job at Gallagher, and by the end, I was, at Gallagher back then. You could probably make more money there now. I don't want to. Say anything negative about anything, but I was making, 140, 150 grand, and it was a good little life and everything else. And, I think when I left, like 4 years later, I'd make 1000% of that. It's 10 times as much. Mm-hmm. And then that kept going up from there. And I never really stopped doing the exact same job. My job was the same job. You know what I mean? Now, in my book, I do kind of ask you some questions to evaluate yourself. Just if you're good at sales and you're not a technician, I'm, knock on wood, I was good at both, but there are certain elements you have to bring to the table that, hey, if you're just a salesman and didn't bother to learn the craft, then maybe you're better off working for someone else as a highly paid sales rep. But for me, I was always doing everything A to Z, and I learned everything, all the intricacies of it. And let's face it, man, insurance is not rocket science. There's some complex pieces, but most of us have the capability to understand any of it. Okay. Now there's a lot sometimes, and maybe some people are better than others, but most of us are enabled to understand it if you put the time in to learn it. Yeah, that was my deal, man. And that's why I'm calling it the thousand. That's a working title. Hey, I was not planning on bringing this up, so thank you.
Yeah, well, listen, you heard it here first, folks, on Infinity X, creating infinite sales opportunities and infinite pay raise opportunities with the man here, John Cerasani. Boy, I'll tell you what. Now, John, let me ask you a question also. So as an entrepreneur, I look at my business, I look at our platform, and I look at where we want to continue to scale and continue to build and continue to innovate. And constantly comes back to how can I create a larger stage and a larger microphone, right? One of our business partners is a gentleman named Sean Callagher, and I always give Sean credit to this. Sean is a speaker on Tony Robbins' stage. Tony has credited him as being one of the most integrous, influential humans. In fact, I actually think the most integrous, influential human he's ever worked with. Right?
Okay.
Incredible man, and he's always referring to the growth of the stage and the microphone. The larger the stage and the larger microphone, the greater the opportunity is for ecosystem mergers. Right? And so, we're constantly looking to broaden our base camp and elevate our stage and our microphone. And for somebody like yourself, I have to imagine that is something that's consistently in the forefront as well, right? You have over 15,000 followers on Instagram. Same holds true on Twitter, and your brand is. I mean, listen, folks, this man has done business with Aaron Rodgers. Right. We haven't even talked about that yet. I want to dig into that here in a moment. But what is the next stage and the next microphone for you? Do you want it to be your own, or is there a platform that you want to speak on?
Great question. I, as far as podcasts and going on shows like this, I got to tell you, David, I'm on the circuit right now where I'm doing a number of these. And by the way, your questions have been great. You've asked me a lot of questions other people haven't asked me. So thank you for that.
Welcome, brother.
I've kind of toyed with doing my own, and then I start to peel back that onion a little bit, and it's like it's a lot of freaking work, man. It's a lot of work, bro.
Just don't show up. What's it?
Well, it's a lot of work, but at least for you and what you're doing, you're tying it into your company where you guys have, other. I'm not really selling anything. You know what I mean? I'm not really. So for me to put all that time and effort into building something like that is just with no real, something I'm going to sell at that point. Maybe I'll just speak in the future or something like that. But right now, man, I'm just trying to put myself out there and help people. Quite honestly, I'm not even really. I appreciate you bringing up my book, but I'm not really even trying to sell my book. I mean, guys, I make like 80 cents for every book that's sold, so it's not like you're going to change my life there, But I do tell people to buy it because I think it will help them.
Yeah, and listen, the message of a megapreneur. You're not an entrepreneur; you're a megapreneur, right? I mean, the level that you've operated at is one that, what do they say? They say if you're in the 99th percentile, you're making $400,000, but if you're in the 99.9, you're making well over $1 million. If you're 99.99, you're at like 10 million. I don't quite know the math, but the gap is absolutely massive. And so you've leveled up into an area in entrepreneurship and let's be honest, income level that people, will never, ever see. Never see. So if you were on a stage and speaking with, because entrepreneur is a broad topic, but if you were on stage and could influence, people in a specific vertical or specific verticals, what would they be and why? Like, where would you want to concentrate your message to?
Tell you what, I would share the story. If my message was going to be geared towards anyone right now, I would say for actual wealth creation and how to get there. And one of the areas that I've been talking a lot in my social circles about lately is how hard it is to actually accumulate wealth. People don't realize how hard that is. Right. And, let's say you have a job where you're making $350,000 a year. Hey man, that's a ton of money. That's as much as anyone's ever paid me for a job. Okay. That's a lot of money. Yeah. But if you do that math over time, okay, what do you really want your lifestyle to be? Okay, for me, I wanted to be able to retire when I was 40 years old. That was it for me. And I had set that in my head at $10 million. I needed to have a $10 million net worth to retire when I was 40 years old. That was my goal. Yep. Okay. And then off that $10 million, I was going to make 5% a year on it, invest it conservatively, and live off 500 grand a year. This was just my little spreadsheet back of the napkin thing that I put together myself. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you what, if I didn't get bought by private equity, all right, if I didn't get bought by private equity, I probably wouldn't have hit it.
Yeah.
And I was making $3 million a year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I probably wouldn't have got to that 10 million. You follow me? Like I was making over 3 million a year. So I think people giving themselves goals and objectives, but like making sure they're realistic to what they're doing. Okay. Especially if you're in corporate America, man. If I'm in corporate America over here and my plan is to, okay, I want to get the VP of whatever one day, dude, that's fine, man. And maybe you'll be making 700 grand a year at some point, and that's awesome. But unless you don't have stock options or something significant in that nature that could go skyrocket, you're still not, moving to your yacht when you're 50.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. But whatever your goal is, just figure out what that goal is and how you're actually going to get there and do the math. And I think that's powerful right now. And I've been saying that a lot to people lately.
I love that message because right now, listen, we're at 43-year highs in inflation. Wealth erosion is a real thing. You're 100% right. Like you could make $700,000 a year, but if you're not saving the right way, right? Corporate America and the financial institutions, they have their rules about how they want people saving money, right? They also have rules about how they want to collateralize that money. And everybody is becoming, I think, more and more aware of that. But the mass, look, the statistics don't lie. The average American family, I think from 55 to 65 has a median average 401k balance of like $140,000 or something like that. It's absurd. It's crazy. And that's the primary savings vehicle. Right. You know, I was looking at a Time magazine cover right before, actually, John, right before we jumped onto the podcast, and I think it was 2005. And it said the death of retirement or something. It was something like that. It was like, and then had 401k directly underneath it. People are being taught in most cases how to accumulate wealth inappropriately, right? In the wrong fashion. And I jumped onto your YouTube channel for a moment and I saw a couple of pieces and I believe it's Gems was the title of the YouTube channel. And there are a couple of pieces pertaining to real estate investment. Do you do anything in real estate, and what type of strategies have you looked at in that space?
Yeah. So you're referring to, it's called like something just like my son is a video editor. So I started.
Oh, is that your son? Oh,
yeah. Okay. It's my son editing it. So it's a lot of fun. He's 13 and learned all this stuff. So I go, Jacob, we're going to start doing Gems by John Cerasani. And
that's awesome. I love it.
I do, so one of the ones that I was referring to is why rich people don't have mortgages, and how there's a misconception amongst the middle class and even the upper middle class to feel rich is by trying to pay off that mortgage. And this was in a time when I filmed that the interest rates were still at like 2.5% to 3.5%. I think they would have gone up since. I don't really watch it that close, but at the time, it was really trying to train the public on, hey, listen, do what you want to do. You could feel great about it. You could feel rich when you pay off your mortgage, but this is why a lot of wealthy people don't do that. And it just talked about taking that money out of your home, putting it into the market, making 8% in the market, and it only costs you 2.5% over here. And then showing you what that means over 10 years. And I use some conservative examples, but like to a middle America, we're talking about, over a 10-year period by really the equivalent of doing paperwork for 2 hours is going to put another $250,000 into your net worth in 10 years.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I totally do.
Yeah.
But you get higher velocity on your money, you get more tax write-offs, you get all of that stuff. I totally get that. And I love that message. Hey, let's talk about your partnership with Aaron Rodgers for a moment.
Sure, no problem, man.
How did that come about? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's called OSDB, which is osdbsports.com. When I first started Glencrest Global, I was just kind of putting my name out there. Hey, there's this venture capitalist from Chicago that's looking to get into some cool and interesting things. So I kind of put that out on the street. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to like invest in a bunch of SaaS companies or like HR services or anything like that. I want to do some interesting crap over here. Okay, man. And somebody heard about this company that Aaron Rodgers is doing. There's a Hollywood website called IMDb that people might be familiar with. It's the verification of celebrities. Okay. You know, David, if you told me that you were an extra in some movie in 2004, okay, and maybe you're trying to pick up some girl at the bar by name dropping that, you know,
right? Sandler, right by the ring, you know.
Maybe that's how you got your wife. Now, listen, she could go to IMDb and see if you've been lying to her after all these years, you know. But so that's what IMDb does, and it verifies things. Okay. And there no such website exists for sports. And oh gosh, yeah, there's Yahoo Sports or CBS Sports. Yeah, but there's not like the whole process like IMDb has for actors in Hollywood as there is in the sports world. So at first I'm a little skeptical, like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. And this guy, Ryan Rotman, starts it, and Ryan Rotman's out in Hollywood. He's an actor. And like, okay, an actor came up with this idea, but then he tells me, well, actually he got Aaron Rodgers to partner with him on this. Still, my skepticism is still high. Me and Ryan have a number of phone calls, and remember, I just sold my insurance. I just got out of insurance, and I'm sitting here in the suburbs of Chicago with my kids, my dogs and stuff. And I'm talking to Rotman on the phone. He's like, well, just fly out to LA. I'll show you all this stuff. And yeah, well, what are you doing this Friday? Me and Zac Efron and a few people are going out. And I'm like, sure. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, I fly out there, and sure enough, we're hanging out with all the we're all hanging out with these guys, and sure enough, Aaron Rodgers owns 30% of the company, and sure enough, they're doing some big damn things, and they were trying to get one external investor that could kind of help them on that team. We got from taking it from here to here in these early pre-seed and seed stages. And I ended up being that guy, infused a little bit of capital in it. Aaron put the most money in, but they were letting one of us come in from the outside to help. And relatively, Aaron didn't put the most money in. I put the most money relatively. Aaron put the most money dollar for dollar. Though, okay?
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, actually that's before his $200 million contract. So I was
about that. That's exactly what just went through my mind.
Yeah. So maybe at the time we were about, I don't know, but yeah, man. So that's what we're doing. It's awesome. Now we've kind of grown where we're about to do a Series A round and really open it up. Got some big interest from a number of kind of A-listers in Hollywood. It's kind of catching that buzz, and a lot of times you hear the celebrity stuff, and it's like, okay, dude, whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, people are throwing in money because they think Aaron's going to be their best friend. That's not what this is. And also, though, we need these Hollywood guys to be on board with it, and the professional athletes to be on board with it, because this is something that the consumers need to go to a website and actually start using the damn thing. Sure. So we need that element to be cool to those people. You follow me? Sure. So that's why I haven't mentioned that those kinds of people are involved.
That's incredible. Look, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone with pure human excellence. John Cerasani has just done unbelievable things. The founder of, I'm so sorry, is it Glencrest?
Yeah, Glencrest Global.
Glencrest Global. You can find him on Instagram and on Twitter at John Cerasani. Author, athlete at the highest level, venture capitalist, name a damn thing, like marijuana, gambling, all these. But
I don't smoke pot. I don't smoke pot. I don't use marijuana, by the way. Just so you know.
Not partaking, but finding value. And I think in the space of venture capital, it's I would assume, I'm not actively participating in it, but I would assume that it's about finding value. John, last question I have for you before I let you rock and roll for the rest of the evening. And by the way, I see you in my future in a massive way, brother. I just have loved what you shared tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
I love your personality, man. What do the next 5 years hold for you, man? What's the next steps in the journey looking like for you?
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing with Glencrest Global. There's one particular company that I've kind of went all in on. It's a government technology company. It's out of Chicago. It's called Quicket Solutions. It's the very first cloud-based court recording system that the FBI has approved. So it's really the only cloud-based system that police officers around the country are able to use. And we're starting to grow rapidly and getting bigger and bigger cities on board. I'll give you a quick example. So say, for instance, you get pulled over and it takes them 12 minutes because they got to call in your plates, wait for them to get back to you from the police station. Now, if they have Quicket in their police force, that process takes about 1 minute because the cop has the app right on his phone. He's not calling in anywhere to run your plates. It's right on his phone with his own security. And we're the only ones. Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Go
ahead, John. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
we're going against the Motorola's of the world. We're going against the Tylers of the world. We have a pretty tight-knit group of investors. It started in 2014, which I was not involved back then, but the first probably 4 years were development. And then the next couple of years started getting some sales, then boom, here comes COVID.
Yep.
And hey, the new guy, Glencrest Global guy, got involved right in the beginning of COVID because you know what I mean? But it really put me in a position though to have a good spot in that company. And I'm on the board of directors and heavily involved, well into 7 figures personally. So we're really expecting big things. And I'm kind of looking at that company as the company that takes me and what I'm trying to do with Glencrest Global into the promised land. OSDB, and there's a weed company, and the sports gambling side. I'm involved in has Kevin Garnett, the NBA player, as a founder too. So trust me, those are all good ones that we hope big things from.
Sure.
But Quicket, I think, could be more imminent, and I have heavier dollar amounts in that. So
that with Quicket also, and call me crazy, but when you were describing this, here's one of the things that was going through my head. Mm-hmm. I would bet that reduces, just because of when you think, and unfortunately, I've been on the receiving end of a ticket in my life, right? Oh, yeah. So that period of time between when the officer comes up to your window to when they go back to run your plates and all those things, people who are up to no good sometimes have the idea, should I run from the scene? But the longer that they, are left alone from the police officer, the more they're thinking that the police officer might be off guard, right? I would imagine that if that time frame is shrunk, that you would be able to show tangible evidence that you're going to have less fleeing the scenes, that you're going to have less accident, that there's less danger for the police officer. I mean, am I right about that? Or
yeah, you're 100% right. That's one of the selling points, as well as just the return on investment of the thing in the first place. Usually it's replacing some other hard drive technology that's in a basement somewhere. This is much less expensive to maintain. Also, it's better for the community. So that what I just described with the e-tickets, that's just one of many things that we do. Another big thing is, okay, you ever show up to court, take a day off of work only to find out that your case got pushed back? You're supposed to come back 2 weeks later. Yes. Okay. How about you're a single mom and you had daycare for your kid, missed a half a day at work to find out this happened? Okay. Yep. With our solution, there's getting text messages the day before. Hey, not going to get your case in tomorrow. Don't come until June 15th. Okay. Because the court systems know this. It's just not organized enough to communicate it properly. So those are just 2 examples of an array of things that we do. And I got to tell you, I'm more excited about that company, or as excited about that company as I am with anything else.
Folks, I have to tell you, I've been impressed by so many of the guests that we've had on Infinity X over the past 2 years, but I have not been impressed with anybody like I've been impressed with John. John, what you're up to in your vision, your focus, your growth model is unprecedented. And so one of my mentors told me, invest in your relevance, right? Mm-hmm. And especially today, if you're not investing in your relevance, you're dying, right? Mm-hmm. And you strike me as somebody who just is constantly innovating on how to invest in their relevance. Mm-hmm. and acceleration. And I can't tell you how much I admire what you've been able to, create for yourself, grow. Being a single dad is, I married a single mom, and I know the responsibility behind that, brother. I am not confused about what that takes, right? That
Awesome.
takes
Thank
a
you.
real man. You're welcome. Absolutely. This is, folks, we are Infinity X. Replay on weareinfinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube. This has been John Cerasani. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at John Cerasani. John, what's your website?
GlenCrestGlobal.com. And I'm not very active on Twitter, so go to Instagram. Instagram is where I'm at.
Got it, folks. Follow him on Instagram. It's GlenCrestGlobal.com. Hit him up. Look, I mean, John, if people have idea, I mean, I'm sure you're getting approached with people with ideas all the time, right? Yep. But, what's a filtration system for if an entrepreneur is looking to, explore opportunity with you? Is it just go to the website? Is there a feed that they can put in?
Yeah, I think, there's just a number of different sources now. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will be utilizing LinkedIn quite a bit. And there's just so many areas within the LinkedIn premium features where you could do searches. I don't even know what it's called, LinkedIn Plus or whatever it's called. Probably worth that $29 a month is what I'll tell you, because I get hit up by strangers all the time that I'm not even connected with that are able to email me directly. So I will tell you that LinkedIn thing actually works. Now, whether or not I reply to the email, I'm not going to say, but if I like the idea, I will.
And by the way, speaking of LinkedIn, stop sending the inbox messages saying, "Hey, David J. Harder, would you marry me?" Right? Because no, I'm not going to read your 12-mile long, introductory email. Like, refine that a little bit, folks, if you want to get onto the platform with somebody like John. But
that's funny.
Dude, you're the best, man. It's been a lot of fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I look forward to, post-op, conversations with you, man, because I love what you're up to. And I think we align. Excited to share some stuff with you. So folks, this is John Cerasani. We are Infinity X. We're here every Tuesday bringing value, bringing insight from people who have been there and continue to do that. It's not just done that, it's continued to do that. And, John, I again, congratulate you on all the things that you're up to, in addition to everything that you've accomplished.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Have a wonderful night. And folks, next week, we will see you on another session of We Are Infinity X.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.